Hello, I'm Tirth Jain, and I'll be talking about decentralized finance in this video. Decentralized finance, or DeFi, refers to a set of applications built on top of blockchains. These applications allow users to participate in financial transactions without needing a central authority or an intermediary, essentially making them peer to peer. DeFi applications give users more control over their assets and give them a more secure and transparent way of dealing with them. Before talking about decentralized finance, let us talk a little bit about why having a third party involved in your transactions is generally bad for you. So, up until now, any means of exchanging assets among individuals has involved a third party. This third party can be a bank, an exchange, or even the government. These third parties can charge you a fee, monitor your transactions, or even block them for any reason they deem fit. By participating in any financial exchange, we essentially have to trust these parties to do their function well. Let's talk about our savings. So, when we give our money to our banks, they promise to keep it safe, they promise to give an interest on it. In doing so, we trust the bank to not make too many risky investments, that is, not give out too many bad loans, and just like continue to function like a bank. Another example is when you want to transfer money to a friend. You go to your bank, deposit some funds, initiate a wire transfer. It goes to your friend's bank account. Your friend has to go to the bank and take the money out. In this example, there's two intermediaries involved, your bank and your friend's bank. Now, both of these can refuse to process the transaction, charge whatever fee they want, and even snitch to the government. So, how does DeFi help? DeFi eliminates the need for a third party. Intermediaries like banks are replaced by little pieces of code. All transactions are verifiable by all the parties since they're stored on an immutable ledger. So there can be no sneaky business going on, as all the transactions that are happening can be verified by either party on either side. There is smaller transaction fees involved because there is no for-profit party involved in the transaction. Now banks, like all companies, are for-profit organizations. They would try to extract as much fees as they can from you. Since all transactions over the blockchain are pseudonymous, they cannot be regulated by the government for any reason. So you're free to carry on your business as you want. Ethereum, which is the second largest blockchain right now, introduced us to the idea of a programmable blockchain. And now these blockchains are made programmable with the help of a smart contract. A smart contract is nothing but a piece of code that is run when certain predetermined conditions are met. These smart contracts allow developers to give new meanings to tokens built on top of the Ethereum chain. Now, these tokens can represent anything from a lottery ticket to shares in a company. The behavior of these tokens is determined by the smart contracts they run on. To make the process of making these tokens simpler, Ethereum introduced a standard called the ERC20 standard. ERC20 establishes a set of rules for fungible tokens in the Ethereum chain. Every token compliant with the ERC20 standard has to expose a defined set of methods. The ERC20 itself is a token that can be traded on top of the Ethereum chain. The ERC20 standard has enabled developers to build tokens that are interoperable with each other and simplified the API. Today, most of the tokens built on top of the Ethereum chain are ERC20 compliant. Some of the methods required by the ERC20 standard are the name of the token, the balance of a wallet, the total supply of a coin, and so on. Now that we understand how DeFi actually started, let's take a look at some of the applications of DeFi and how it's being used in the real world today. So stablecoins are the first pillar of DeFi, and they're actually the reason why a lot of people are also willing to invest their money in crypto. Cryptocurrencies are widely considered to be volatile assets, uh, and you don't want to invest your money in an asset that is so volatile. Plus, there is some cryptocurrencies that are just hype trains. Uh, they come in a market, they last for a very short amount of time, and they plummet. So, for any financial system to function well, it needs to be built upon a stable base, and that's actually where stablecoins come in. Stablecoins are pegged against a stable asset. Now, this stable asset can be anything: a fiat currency, gold, silver, or any other stable asset. Stablecoins are a common way of holding your investments in crypto while mitigating the risk of volatility. A very good example of a stablecoin is Tether. Tether is a stablecoin that is pegged against the US dollar, which means that one USDT is almost always going to be equal to $1. Tether allows you to trade more volatile coins in exchange for USDT coins that are much more stable. So instead of selling your coins, you can simply trade them and avoid all of the fees and taxes. Stablecoins like Tether also allow you to transfer funds around the globe for a very small fee. Now compare this with the amount of charges that are taken on an international wire transfer. In countries suffering from hyperinflation or excessive government intervention, stablecoins have become a way for people to save their money in a more secure asset than the fiat currency. It's also done by people who do not have enough faith in their own government's currency. Since Tether is programmable, you can write smart contracts to transfer money to someone at a specific time or even at specific intervals or on the satisfaction of some condition. All of this without human intervention. A very good example of this is companies that are leveraging this programmability to allow their employees to accept salaries in crypto. So we discussed that one tether is almost always equal to one US dollar. So how does that actually work? So imagine this. Uh, Imagine Tether having a big bank account, and whenever you want to buy some Tether, you log into your crypto exchange, you pay some amount of money. Now, your crypto exchange will transfer this money to Tether's bank account. In exchange, Tether will issue an equivalent number of Tether tokens and transfer them to your wallet after subtracting the fee that is. Now, you can do whatever you want with these tokens, and when you decide to get back your fiat currency in exchange of these tokens, you can transfer these tokens back to Tether by logging onto your website. Tether will then remove these tokens from circulation and return an equivalent amount of currency to your bank account. This way, there is only as many Tether tokens as there are dollars in the Tether's bank account. So one token will always be equal to one US dollar. So now that we have a stable asset to deal in crypto, we can move on to more complex functions uh, like lending and borrowing money. Now, DeFi protocols enable users to lend and borrow assets among each other without the need for a third party, essentially functioning like a decentralized peer-to-peer bank. Aave is one such protocol. Aave is built on top of the Ethereum chain. Technically, Aave is a peer to smart contract protocol. Lenders can deposit money into a smart contract, and borrowers can deposit a collateral and in exchange borrow from any other smart contract. The name Aave comes from the Finnish word for ghost. The name also signifies that the protocol is completely anonymous. A lender does not know who they're lending money to, and the borrower does not know whom they're borrowing money from. So, where there are loans, there obviously has to be some collateral involved. So, when taking a loan from a bank, you can place, let's say, something of value like your house as collateral. But this isn't how it works in crypto. When taking cryptocurrencies as a loan, you need to deposit some other crypto as collateral. Aave loans are said to be over collateralized. This means that you can only borrow X% of the money you placed as collateral. Let's think of it with an example. Let's suppose the limit X is 80%. This means that to, to get $80 worth of USDT, you'll have to place $100 worth of Ether as collateral. And this must sound very absurd at first. Why would you have to pay more collateral than the amount of money you want to borrow? And if you already have more money than you need, then why would you take a loan? So let's continue with the last example. You put up $100 of Ethereum to borrow $80 of Tether. You get to keep this $80 and do whatever you please with it later. When Ethereum grows back in price to, let's say, $200, you can give the $80 of USDT back to get back $200 in Ethereum. Now, these types of loans allow individuals to create leveraged positions and gain higher profits on smaller amount of capital. Loans in Aave also differ from traditional loans in the sense that there is no fixed time period to pay back the loan. However, as time grows, your health score on Aave would keep decreasing and make your investment more likely to get liquidated. Aave has a certain liquidation threshold after which it will automatically sell your collateral to the lenders. This ensures that lenders on Aave never lose any money. Now, crypto being decentralized doesn't count for much if you're forced to trade it through a centralized exchange. To deal with centralized exchange, you first need to identify yourself via KYC. Centralized exchanges are also for-profit entities that try to extract a fee for every transaction on their platform. Instead of being governed by a central authority, decentralized exchanges or DEXs work using smart contracts. They also have their governance tokens, which are used to make decisions on the functioning of the DEX. A DEX has a few limitations though. You can only use a DEX to swap tokens on the same blockchain. For example, if a DEX is based on the Ethereum blockchain, then you can only only swap tokens which are also built upon Ethereum. Since there is no governing body, there is no support either. So if you make a mistake, like transferring your funds to a wrong address, there is no one who can help you there. DEXs also suffer from the problem of low liquidity. This means that large orders can result in a significant amount of price fluctuation. Uniswap, which is built on top of the Ethereum blockchain, is a very famous example of a DEX. Uniswap can be used to swap ERC20 compatible tokens amongst each other. Since Uniswap is a decentralized exchange and there is no central body involved, the fees for a transaction are very low as compared to a centralized exchange. Unlike a traditional market, Uniswap does not function on the order book system. Now, in the order book system, let's say if you want to buy an asset X for a price Y, then you have to wait for someone else who's willing to sell an asset X at the same price Y. So instead of pairing two people like this, Uniswap uses an automated market maker. Now, an automated market maker is a collection of smart contracts that define a standard way to create liquidity pools, provide liquidity to them, and swap assets. Now, automated market makers run on an algorithm which determines the price of every asset. So, we saw in the last slide that automated market makers function with the help of liquidity pools. A liquidity pool is nothing but a pool containing two different assets. In DeFi, a liquidity pool is defined with the help of a smart contract. Now, the smart contract can hold two different assets, transfer them, and this helps the liquidity pool to let you swap one asset with another for a very small transaction fee. A liquidity pool will always start with a ratio of 50-50 for both assets. The more of one token that is bought, the more its price increases. For example, let's say you start a liquidity pool with Ethereum and basic attention token. So the more of basic attention token you'll buy in exchange of Ether, the more you'll be charged for a basic attention token. This is done because the more of ETH you give to the liquidity pool, the more the algorithm thinks that its price is dropping. Liquidity pools can also function as a means of investment. The people who provide the initial liquidity to the pool are known as liquidity providers. Now, these providers get to distribute the profits earned by the transaction fees on the transactions happening to in the liquidity pool. Now that we've discussed some of the applications of decentralized finance and why it's such a big deal these days, let's also talk about some of the dangers involved and if it's actually the future it claims to be. Since the technologies behind DeFi are still young, they're very susceptible to attacks. Most of the code involved in DeFi applications is open sourced. While this can be a good thing, as we can verify the behavior of the code ourselves, it also means that hackers have an easier way of finding out bugs in that code. Cryptocurrencies have become a playground of choice for scammers. There is news of a new scam involving crypto almost every day. Since there is no regulation involved, the risks involved are also higher. Traditional banks are also governed by a clearly defined set of regulations. This is not true for DeFi applications. Hence, they don't offer the same amount of protection. So, that is all I had to say about DeFi, its history, its current state, and the dangers it involves, and the future. I would like to thank you for watching the video, and I hope you learned something from it.